But you need to know that because we've created this partnership, we were able to say, how could we use this money if we got this opportunity? How could we work together? What are the possibilities? And we really stretched. And our initial conversations were, what are we going to do? And how are we going to do this? And we put crews to work year-round for 2 years. We doubled the Pacific Crest Trail operating budget in the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. So I just want to celebrate the fact that as a team we've come together as a community, both your federal partners, volunteers, and the Pacific Crest Trail organization to really do some landmark work. I think it's a once-in-a-career opportunity for me. Mark's going to share a little bit about the BLM and give you some site-specific examples of what we did, and then Mike will talk even in more detail. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Conley. First, I'm delighted and honored to be here this afternoon. And I was just thinking just a minute ago, my first PCTA annual meeting. It was actually, I attended in 1989 in Palm Springs. And there was about 12 or 15 people around a conference room table at that time. And I just was thinking, what an amazing amount of accomplishment that's been achieved by the Pacific Crest Trail Association over the last 20 years. And a testimony, I saw Bob Balluz in the back, his efforts in the early years, and then Liz Bergeron in developing this really dynamic team that is really the advocates for the Pacific Crest Trail. And before I just briefly talk about the ARRA, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, us federal agencies love our acronyms, I want to talk about something very special that happened to BLM in the Omnibus Public Lands Management Act of just a couple of years ago. The National Scenic and Historic Trails that cross BLM public lands are now recognized as part of a system that the Bureau manages, along with other special designations, including 3 national monuments we manage here in California, wild and scenic rivers, wilderness areas, wilderness study areas, and our national conservation areas. And so this system has really brought more management attention to the public lands that BLM manages and just the tremendous resources that we're responsible for. And so now we have this system of public lands of which scenic and historic trails are a part of, which has really brought more recognition to this incredible system. And as Beth mentioned, 2 years ago, the good news, we got $4 million, of which BLM got $300,000 for the trail. Again, an unprecedented amount. The bad news is, now how do we get this work done on the ground? And so it was an amazing amount of effort up front. We had to enter into contracts. First, interior and agriculture. You think we'd be on the same page on how we manage dollars, but believe me, it's quite different. And then 2 nonprofits. And again, I think the Pacific Crest Trail Association served as a real leadership role and helped bring all the key stakeholders together. So crafting all these agreements, getting them in place, and then reaching out to the youth crews. And we specifically worked with the Student Conservation Association. And again, it's been just, for me, as a 25-year government employee, you bring in some youth and just their enthusiasm, passion, and commitment to the work they're doing, and they're volunteers. They're getting a stipend to be out there on the ground. And at the beginning, we had some incredibly bad weather, snow in San Diego County. And so we're trying to get this work done on a very difficult and really some challenges, but the partnership kept it together. And then the PCTA volunteers worked with the youth organizations and brought even more strength to what we were doing on the ground. And I know Mike's going to talk about some of the specific accomplishments, but it's just been a real testament to the dedication of this collaborative partnership. And I do want to just talk about one area real quickly Tehachapi. It's an area of BLM private lands, and we've had real serious problems with OHV trespass on the trail. And we put together another stakeholder group to work with us, as well as the youth corps that's been out there doing restoration and trail maintenance work. And we were able to really make some real changes in how that area is being, through hikers and the work that's been done on the ground, and the work with the law enforcement agencies, the Kern County Sheriff's Department, BLM, Forest Service. Again, this bringing people together to really do a tremendous amount to benefit this trail for everyone that uses it. And then last, in closing, I'd just like to talk about one event we had last November to recognize our youth corps members, and I wish they were here today, because you just get enthused when you talk to them, but you know, they're out working on the trail, I believe, actually. So, and again, they're camping out, spiking out, living and working in remote locations, and doing just a fantastic job for BLM, Forest Service, and the Pacific Crest Trail Association, as well as the Trail Guerrillas, who have also been just instrumental working side by side these youth corps teams, as Beth mentioned. So what's so wonderful about these linear trails, they really do bring agencies and people together to manage for the best interest of all. And we're not so concerned about who manages what land. Is it BLM or is it Forest Service? We're looking at the whole corridor and how we can best manage this National Scenic Trail for everyone. Again, I look forward to talking with you after this, and thanks for inviting me, and it's been a real privilege and also my passion as a hiker. I really enjoy this part of my job. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Mike Dawson. He's the Pacific Crest Trail Association Trail Operations Director and a key thinker in the how we get the ERA projects implemented.
Nothing like spending some time with 80 of your closest friends. So, let's see. So I want to make sure that we talk more broadly about some of the things that are going on. I'm going to talk about the stimulus project and all the good things that came of it, but I don't want to miss some other things that are part of our ongoing work. Because a big chunk of what the Trail Operations Program does is deals with trail protection. Every year there are dozens of proposals by agencies, by adjacent private landowners, by public agencies outside of our primary partnership with the Forest Service and the BLM and the Park Service. Things like highways, wind farms, solar arrays, roads, you name it, it gets proposed along the PCT, and we need to deal with all of those things. Up here is just a listing of some of the most high-profile projects along the trail. We have a system with the Forest Service and our other agency partners called an optimal location review, where you need to figure out where the best place for the PCT is to be as far as long-term protection and the best opportunity to provide excellent recreational experiences on the trail. This year we looked at an area behind Sierra Buttes. And here was an area where the trail closely paralleled and crossed a four-wheel drive road managed by the Forest Service. Mountain bikers were being funneled onto this road as a location for them, but it didn't suit their needs nearly as well as the really well-maintained single track that they could see just off the side of that road. And so we had real concerns there, but when we got out there, there was a real opportunity to move the trail from a dry ridge line down into some lake basins to improve opportunities for camping along the trail and water and so forth. And so this was just an example of a process that we use to continually improve the experience that's available to folks on the PCT. Folks have already talked about OHV enforcement in Kern County. We have a proposal in Southern California in the area of Agua Dulce for a high-speed rail corridor, which we are now dealing with. And there was a major proposal for a travel management plan, which talked about where motorized use, both by regular road vehicles and also by off-highway vehicles, will be allowed in the area of the Hat Creek Rim. And we were deeply involved in that. It was a very successful program, which really resulted in better protection of the trail from the impacts of OHVs along the trail. In Oregon, we've already talked about the King Creek property, a long process, a lot of investment, and one that I think that as the years go by we will realize was more and more important. In Washington, many of you have undoubtedly read in our magazine about proposals to put a motorized road on top of 3.5 miles of the PCT inside North Cascades National Monument. We've still been working with that. In the picture is Senator Maria Cantwell from the state of Washington and Chip Jenkins, the park superintendent. At that meeting was myself and Suzanne Wilson, and getting out on the ground and really seeing what the impacts are and where the solutions might lie is how we deal with all of these types of proposals. Trailwide, we continue with our coordination on acquisition and our advocacy for acquisition funding that Liz is going to talk about more later. So, ARRA. For 2010-11, PCTA was awarded $947,000. PCTA hired 7 full-time and 2 seasonal employees to coordinate the work of these core crew programs. And there are 2 points that I want to make. One is that we were really fortunate to be able to hire 7 very talented young rising professionals in the trail world. And I think that that's really important for us as an organization, and also important for as far as our contribution to the greater trail community, because I know that each one of those people is going to go on and make real differences either in the PCT or in other trails nationwide. In the picture, you see one of those employees, Sam Camarto, dwarfed behind a very large rock. He was overseeing the technical rigging work done by the Student Conservation Association on the San Bernardino National Forest. ARRA funding supported 88 weeks of the Student Conservation Association's work on the PCT in 2010 alone. Other organizations that we worked with in Washington, Earth Corps. In Trailwide, the AmeriCorps program supported by the Northwest Service Academy based in Southern Washington. The Northwest Youth Corps based in Eugene. We used ARRA funding to fund PCTA's volunteer Wendigo Trail crew on the in the Willamette and Deschutes National Forests, and then the Student Conservation Association. Whoops, sorry. Here we go. So what do we get out of all this? 68,854 hours. Do we keep records or what? Of labor on the PCT. 303 miles of trail were maintained last year just by the ARRA crews. 58 miles of trail were reconstructed on 117 different projects. This particular photo is part of the ARRA